Cameroon is set to begin a national development program for the economy set between 2020 to 2030. It is going to include every sector and strata of the society. John Paul Sama will shine the spotlight on the tactics the country is set to adopt. Plus, over to the southwest region, the Ministry of Fishery, Livestock and Animal Industry has launched a rabies vaccination campaign in the southwest region to fight the spread of the disease caused by dogs. Over 90 days are carried for the rabies virus. In sports, Andre Onana and Kunde Malong will not make up the squad set to play against Japan tomorrow in an international friendly after testing positive for the COVID-19 virus. And those are top stories. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining the English newscast on Spectrum Television tonight. I am Josephine Bindzi. As announced in the headlines, the government of Cameroon has come up with a national development strategy for 2020 through 2030, which aims at prompting the economic development of the country through the participation of every sector which make up the nation. John Paul Sama has the details.
Policies of Cameroon in the next decade will center around the strategy of national development 2020-2030. This SND 30 articulates internal and international commitment of the country's economical and social environment and is based on the implementation of the strategy document for the growth and employment, which takes the relay until 2030 with a view of achieving the objectives of a Vision 2035, which aims to make Cameroon an emerging country, democratic and united in its diversity. This new developmental policy brought in by the government to cover all sectors in the country's development also takes into account the recommendations of the major national dialogue and also shares the desire to provide solutions to pertinent problems plagued by the country, like the crisis in the northwest and southwest regions. The government also, through this strategy for national development, intends to devote itself fully to this by counting on the dynamism of the private sector, the involvement of the civil society, mobilization of the population, and partner support, be it economic, technical, or financial.
12 billion CFA francs is the amount of non-tax revenue which has gone missing from state treasury. This was revealed in a report of the Ministry of Finance. Peter Nsose looks into this missing tax revenue and has the following details for the 6 p.m. newscast.
The Ministry of Finance has just published its first report of the special conferences on the budgeting of non-tax revenues which held in Yaoundé last week. It was discovered that there are significant discrepancies between the declared amounts of non-tax revenue collected by administrators and those transferred to the balance of treasury accounts, which amounted to 12 billion francs CFA. To break it down, the first half of 2020 recorded the non-payment of more than 11 billion francs CFA of administrative fees, 7 million francs CFA of income from incidental sales, 439 million francs CFA from sales of services, and 150 million francs CFA from estates. The Ministry of Finance regrets that the contribution of non-tax revenues in the financing of the state budget of Cameroon has not exceeded 4% in the last 3 years. But government is poised to change the status quo as from the 2021 fiscal year. Non-tax revenue have risen steadily within this period from 168 billion francs CFA in 2018 to 200 billion francs CFA in 2019 and about 204 billion in 2020.
To this lead story, a rabies vaccination campaign has been launched in the capital of the southwest region, Boya, to fight the spread against the disease rabies caused by dogs. The campaign is set to spread across other areas of the region, given that the southwest region is sunniest at this time of the year. Oni Ladonet with more.
A eradicating rabies in the southwest region is the aim for vaccinating all the dogs and animals carrying this disease. This vaccination campaign was launched by the Ministry of Livestock, Fisheries and Animal Industry through the Southwest Regional Delegation of Livestock, Fisheries and Animal Industry. The campaign started in Boya, chief town of the region, and will run to other parts in the southwest region. With over 90 dogs being porters of this rabies virus, more than 500 dogs were vaccinated.
If you don't have this
With the resumption of classes, the Southwest Regional Delegate encourages every pet owner to keep their pets in guard so as to avoid them infecting students. These pet owners are also called upon to get their pets tested and vaccinated.
In order to meet up with the syllabus, revision classes have been organized for students in these classes, which will run for the first 2 weeks of the school year and will be focused on refreshing the minds of students on last year's school topics and finishing last year's school syllabus. Ladonet Oni has details.
The abrupt shutting down of schools due to the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted the learning process for non-examination classes. With over 7 months spent out of classrooms, these students can barely remember what they were taught in the previous academic year. Now we have noticed that these students barely remember what they were taught, but are understanding slowly. I think we'll be able to look into everything left undone. In order to keep them up to date in their education, the first few weeks is consecrated for revision.
Because of that COVID-19 also, we have programmed in a way that work that was left undone in the previous year have to be covered before we start the syllabus of the new class. That's what we are doing now. And I would like to assure you that this year school started very well. On the first day of the opening, we had a good enrollment. Second day and the third day now, things are going on well.
These students are happy to reunite with friends and are ready to work in collaboration with their teachers in order to ensure a successful academic school year.
For our program our syllabus that we have not yet finished in our Form 4, I can tell you that our teachers are doing their best to make sure that they undergo it, to make sure that they treat all our syllabus, that everything that we need, they do it for us. In the sense that also, we also as a student, we also go home, try to read in our textbook in order to help our teacher, because them doing it, they cannot do it alone, we do it by ourselves also.
The past 7 months we have not been going to school, and we know we are facing so many difficulties throughout this year, and we know our teachers, the teachers that have brought us here, that have come here to learn, they will continue, they will give us more enlightening to do whatever thing. We'll try our effort to have more, to learn more and more, so that we can make an effort to make this school year a successful one.
In most private schools here in the economic capital, Douala, extra studying hours have been created for students of the examination classes.
Given that it's still back to school season, parents and commercial bike riders are setting up several strategies on how to safely transport their children to and back from school. Oni Ladonet went out to the streets to see the level of organization and has the following details for the 6 p.m. newscast.
It's back to school year in the economic capital, Douala, and the nightmare of having to transport children to and back from school is posing a veritable problem for some parents. As solution to this hurdle, some parents have sought the services of transporters. In regards to contract on transporting students to school, it depends. We have parents who prefer taking their children to school in the morning and bringing them back in the evening. It also depends on the contract drawn. It can be decided monthly, and before that, we need to evaluate the petrol for the month, multiply by the days, and charge the parents. It also depends on the distance. It can be 30,000 francs, 40,000 francs, or 50,000 francs monthly. These contracts can sometimes run for the whole academic year, depending on the financial ability of the parent.
En fait, j'ai le contrat avec mes deux clients.
I have drawn contracts with two parents, like I always do. The price is still the same. I carry them from Godi to Saint-Gérard. It's 30,000 francs a month.
C'est 30 000.
Some transporters confess getting such contracts from parents this school year has been difficult.
L'année passée, j'ai avec deux élèves que j'ai transportés. Mais j'ai été surpris cette année.
Last year, I had two children I was transporting to school. But I was surprised this year that these two children will not go to school. I was told after I inquired from their parents if we were going to work again this year. It wouldn't be possible. I was told the children might not even school this year. I even called this morning to verify, but her answer was still the same. While on other years, I usually have lots of parents soliciting my services, but this year, I haven't gotten any.
Cette année, pas de proposition. C'est vraiment dur.
Nevertheless, not all parents have signed in with transporters, as some prefer carrying their children to school in the morning and picking them up at midday. I take my child to school in the morning and go take him in the evening. Just like now, I'm returning from his school. I prefer being in charge of that because for now I don't have anyone I trust to take up this responsibility.
Encouraging and motivating women going through fertility issues and exposing the struggle they face in their search for children is a drive force towards writing a book. Author Agnes Guillemot pens down her 15 years struggle through infertility and artificial insemination into a book titled Quelle soit l'issue, j'avance et je reste debout. Oni Ladonnette was at that book conference and now has the following details.
In today's world, it has become difficult for women to create a balance with work and family life. This is an aspect greatly highlighted by writer Agnes Guillemot in her literary piece titled Quelle que soit l'issue, j'avance et reste debout. The book was launched today, 8 October, here in the economic capital, Douala, in a seminar intended to motivate and encourage women going through fertility issues.
The book talks about my experience, my personal experience. I've been spending many years in that. And I wanted people to know that those women, we are strong women. Whatever happens, we are strong. Stay strong, stand tall. In your struggle, stand tall and have a strong mentor. If you are that way, you will be a good patient for your doctor, and that period will be productive.
According to the author, insurance cover has to be provided to infertile women in search of children through different means.
In a child in Africa at the hospital is not allowed to everybody, because it costs many money. And the biggest part of the population who are seeking children do it by traditional methods. But there are also some seekers. It is not a matter of being in a hospital or going to traditional medicine. We are seekers from the moment that we want to have a child, and it is difficult. So the society really have to change its views on those couples, on those women, and stop insulting them and stop.
After living with infertility for 15 years and conceiving through artificial insemination, author Agnes Guillemot calls on enterprise owners to be understanding and extend a hand of support to women going through such situation.
And let's go to our international page where we talk U.S. elections. America's allies in Europe are watching closely as the U.S. presidential elections enters its final leg. Transatlantic relations have at times been strained under President Trump, and some key European allies hope for a return to the stability under a Joe Biden presidency. But some other NATO members have welcomed Donald Trump's demands for Europe to pull its weight. Details with the VOA.
Shortly after his 2016 election victory, President Donald Trump declared that NATO was obsolete because, in his words, it wasn't taking care of terror. That alarmed NATO allies, shaken by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But by 2017, Trump's tone had changed.
Now they do fight terrorism. I said it was obsolete. It's no longer obsolete.
For Europe, the unpredictability has been difficult, says security analyst Julie Norman.
You want an ally who's going to be reliable, and especially an ally like the United States that traditionally has been, such a heavyweight.
So what do NATO allies make of Trump's rival, Joe Biden?
Biden, from his past record, is much more favourable to NATO, and NATO remains the bedrock of British security as well as European security more generally.
Supporters of Donald Trump say he should be judged on his actions. The president oversaw the deployment of US troops and hardware to Poland in 2017 as part of NATO's biggest deployment since the Cold War. He remains a popular figure in Poland and other former Soviet states.
For some of those states, there would still probably be a preference for Trump to stay in the White House.
But in Germany's case, a major European ally, Trump has accused Berlin of being delinquent in its NATO payments and plans to withdraw 20,000 troops stationed in the country. While his tone is abrasive, the president tells truths that Europe doesn't want to hear, argues political commentator Matthew Paris.
He has in an instinctive way been right about quite a few things, that perhaps there was a need to push back against China on trade issues. He's right about NATO spending. He's right about many European countries not pulling their weight.
Washington's tough stance on China may not change whoever wins the White House, says analyst Julie Norman.
Many Democrats, Biden included, share some of the concerns that Trump had around China and that many Europeans have around China as well.
The biggest transatlantic divergence during the Trump administration has been on climate change, with many in Europe seeing Biden as more sympathetic to their viewpoint, says analyst Leslie Vinjamuri.
I think it's very clear to Europe that the stakes could not be higher in this elections for what is arguably the most important issue at the international level over the next 10 and 15 years.
From Russia to conflicts in Libya and the Middle East, to tensions with Turkey, Europe faces numerous strategic challenges. The US will likely play a key role, no matter who wins the presidential election in November. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
And in sports, the Cameroon national team will play against Japan tomorrow in an international friendly with just 17 players, as Andre Onana and Koundé Malong have been sidelined after testing positive for COVID-19. John Paul Sama previews that encounter.
Out of the 24 players called out to camp for the friendly match against Japan, the coach of the Lions team can only count on 17 of them to defend the colors of the nation against the Blue Samurai. Sensational young boys burn forward who scored over 3,000 goals last season, Jean-Pierre Samé and Ignatius Ganago, who began the season on fine form in the French Ligue 1, are all out as a result of injuries, while Jerome Ongene of Red Bull Salzburg couldn't make it to camp as a result of being quarantined alongside some of his teammates. For the 21 players who showed up for Monday's session after having tested negative for the coronavirus, began training until their results this day revealed that shortstopper Andre Onana and midfield maestro Pierre Kunde Malong all tested positive for the coronavirus, even though with mild symptoms. As a result, Dawa Joyce Kim and Mumin Gamelo, who were all close to the infected, have been put on quarantine, leaving Antonio Conceição with 17 players to face off against Japan this Friday. The technical bench will have to rely on the likes of Fabrice Ondoa, Oyongo, Fai and Mukudi in defense, while looking forward to Zambo Anguissa leading the young midfielders in the likes of Umgwet and Yaneteki, while Toko Ekambi's crucial leadership up front will be of utmost importance if Cameroon seek to beat the Japanese team. They haven't won in their last 5 encounters since 2001, losing 3 and drawing 1, with their last meeting traced as far back as in the group stages of the 2010 World Cup, where they fell by a goal to nil.
It's been a pleasure having you watch the 6 p.m. newscast today, October 8, 2020. Tomorrow, 6 p.m. is another rendezvous with us. From tonight, it's good night.